I thought marrying Rose meant I was marrying her. Just her. That's how it works where I'm from in Glasgow. You meet someone, you fall in love, you build a life together. Two people, maybe kids someday, but her family, they're not part of the marriage certificate, are they? I was wrong, dead wrong. When I married Rose 3 years ago, I married her mother, her father, her 5 siblings, her aunts, her uncles, her cousins, her neighbors, and apparently every elderly person in her entire barangay in Pampanga. I just didn't know it yet. Nobody told me, or maybe they did, and I was too in love to hear it. I'm Graham. I'm 50 years old. I worked as a maintenance supervisor for a housing association in Glasgow for 26 years before I took early retirement. My pension isn't massive, but it's steady, £22,000 a year. In the Philippines, that converts to about 90,000 pesos a month. I thought I'd be comfortable. I thought Rose and I would have a nice, simple life. I met her online. I wasn't looking for someone younger or foreign or exotic. I was just lonely after my divorce. My ex-wife took the house, I took the debt, and I spent 5 years living in a bedsit, eating meal deals and watching telly. A mate at work told me to try international dating. Filipinas are lovely, mate. Family-oriented, loyal, not like the women here. Rose's profile said she was a teacher. She had kind eyes. Her messages were sweet and thoughtful. We video chatted for 8 months before I flew to the Philippines to meet her. She picked me up at the airport with her younger sister. They were both so warm and welcoming. I felt like I mattered for the first time in years. Her family lived in a simple concrete house in a subdivision outside Angeles City. Nothing fancy, but clean and decent. Her parents welcomed me like I was already family. Her father, Tatang Renato, shook my hand firmly. Her mother, Nane Luz, hugged me and said, "Welcome home, anak." Son, I wasn't used to that kind of warmth. That first visit, I stayed 2 weeks. Rose showed me around Pampanga. We went to Mount Pinatubo, ate sisig in Angeles, visited old Spanish churches. Her family invited me to every meal. There were always 15 people at the table, cousins, neighbors, friends, everyone laughing and talking and passing food. It felt like what family was supposed to feel like. On my 3rd night there, after dinner, Rose explained something to me. We were sitting on the porch, just the 2 of us, and she said, "Graham, in Filipino culture, we have something called Mano Po. When you greet elders, you take their hand and press it to your forehead. It's a sign of respect." "That's lovely," I said. I meant it. Tomorrow is Sunday. We'll go to church with my parents. When we come home, you should do Mano Po to them. They'll appreciate it. The next day after Mass, we went back to the house. Rose nudged me gently. I walked up to her father first. "Mano Po, Tatang," I said, taking his weathered hand and pressing it to my forehead. He smiled. Then I did the same to her mother. "Mano Po, Nanay." Nanay Luz smiled and hugged me. Then she pressed something into my hand. A folded bill. 500 pesos. I tried to give it back. No, I can't take this." She pushed my hand away. "It's our culture. Elders give blessing," Rose whispered. "Just accept it, love. It's rude to refuse." I kept the 500 pesos. It seemed like a kind gesture, generous even. What I didn't realize was that Mano Po was a 2-way street in her family, and the street only flowed in one direction out of my wallet. 2 days later, Rose's Lolo, her grandfather, came to visit. He was 80-something, thin as a rail, sitting in the corner smoking a cigarette. Rose whispered, "Go do Mano Po to Lolo." I walked over. "Mano Po, Lolo," I said, bending down to take his hand and press it to my forehead. He mumbled something in Tagalog. Then he held out his hand, palm up, waiting. I looked at Rose. She nodded slightly. I pulled out my wallet and gave him 200 pesos. He took it without a word and stuffed it in his pocket. "That's normal," I whispered to Rose later. "Of course. You show respect to elders. Elders need help. It's part of Filipino culture. Pagalang sa matatanda. Respect for the elderly. But your nanay gave me money. Now I'm giving money. That's different. Parents bless their children. But you're younger than Lolo. You're supposed to help him. I didn't argue. 200 pesos was less than 4 quid, not worth making a fuss. But Lolo wasn't the only elder. Over the next week, I met Rose's Lola on her mother's side. Mano Po. 500 pesos expected. I met her uncle Tito Ben, who was in his 60s. Mano Po. 300 pesos. I met a neighbor, Mang Rudy, who was 70-something. Mano Po. 200 pesos. Every elder I met, the same routine. Respect through the forehead. Money in the hand. Is this every time I see them? I asked Rose. Just when you do, Mano Po. So, every time I see them. She hesitated. They'll expect it. By the end of that first trip, I'd handed out over 6,000 pesos to various elderly people. About 100 quid. I didn't think much of it. It was my first visit. I wanted to make a good impression. I went back to Glasgow. Rose and I kept chatting. I sent her money every month. 2,000 pesos for her phone bill, 3,000 for her transportation, 5,000 so she could buy a new dress for her cousin's wedding. It felt good to help. She was my girlfriend. I wanted to take care of her. This time I stayed a month. I proposed to her on the beach in Subic. She cried and said yes. Her family threw an engagement party. 50 people showed up. Her father roasted a lechon. I didn't pay for it, but I gave him 10,000 pesos for expenses. After the party, Rose sat me down. Graham, there's something important we need to do. Pamanhikan, it's a Filipino tradition. Your family formally asks my family for permission to marry me, but I don't have family here. It's just me. Then you represent your family. We'll have a meal with my parents. You'll bring gifts. You'll show respect. The Pamanhikan happened the following week. I bought a roasted chicken, a case of San Miguel beer, a cake, and some fruit. I also brought an envelope with 20,000 pesos inside. Rose told me it was customary to give money to her parents as a sign of sincerity. We sat in the living room. Her father asked me about my intentions. I told him I loved Rose and wanted to spend my life with her. He nodded approvingly. Her mother cried. Everyone hugged. Then her father took the envelope. He opened it, counted the money in front of everyone, and smiled. Salamat. Anak, he said. Thank you, son. I felt proud. I'd done it right. After the Pamanhikan, the elders started showing up. Rose's Lola arrived from the province. I did Mano Po. She held out her hand. I gave her 1,000 pesos. Rose's uncle from Bataan visited. Mano Po. 500 pesos. Her Tito from Tarlac came through. Mano Po. 1,000 pesos. Do I give money every time? I asked Rose. They're elders. They've traveled to see you. It's respectful. But I already gave money during Pamanhikan. That was for my parents. This is different. I stopped asking questions. I didn't want to seem disrespectful. We got married 3 months later in a small ceremony at a church in Angeles. I paid for everything. The church fee, the flowers, the photographer, the reception for 100 people. Total cost, 80,000 pesos. About £1,400. It was more than I'd planned, but it was our wedding. You only do it once. After the wedding, I moved to the Philippines permanently. We rented a small house near her family. My pension transferred every month like clockwork, 90,000 pesos. I thought that would be plenty for 2 people. The first month, Rose's father came by. Anak, I need to see the doctor. My blood pressure. Can you help with the medicine? I gave him 3,000 pesos. The second month, her mother needed new glasses, 5,000 pesos. The third month, her Lolo's prescription ran out. 2,000 pesos. Every month, someone needed medicine. Someone needed a doctor. Someone needed help. They're old, Graham, Rose said. They can't work anymore. We have to help them. But doesn't your brother work? Or your sisters? They don't make much. You have a pension. You're stable. I couldn't argue with that logic. Then the birthdays started. Her father's birthday in February. Rose said we needed to host a small celebration. 40 people came. I paid for the food, the lechon, the drinks, 15,000 pesos. Her mother's birthday in April, another party, 50 people, 20,000 pesos. Her Lolo's birthday in June, just family. Rose said. 70 people came. I bought 2 lechon. 24,000 pesos. How many family members do you have? I asked Rose after the third party. It's not just blood family, love. It's the community, neighbors, friends. They're all family here. Every birthday required a party, and every party required my money. Then there were the emergencies. Her uncle Tito Ben's roof was leaking. 10,000 pesos to fix it. Her aunt's water pump broke. 8,000 pesos. Her cousin's motorbike needed repairs. 5,000 pesos. Every week, someone had an emergency. And every week, Rose came to me with soft eyes and said, "It's family. We have to help." I started tracking my expenses on a notebook. In my first 6 months living in the Philippines, I spent elder medicine and doctor visits, 42,000 pesos. Birthday parties, 65,000 pesos. Emergency repairs, 38,000 pesos. Mano Po money, weekly elders, approximately 18,000 pesos. Total, 163,000 pesos. Nearly 3 months of my pension, gone, and that didn't include our rent, food, utilities, or Rose's personal expenses. Love, we need to slow down on the spending. I don't have unlimited money. She looked hurt. Are you saying you don't want to help my family? I'm saying we need a budget. We can't keep giving money to everyone. They're not everyone, Graham. They're elders. They raised me. They took care of me. In Filipino culture, when you marry someone, you marry their family. You take care of them. It's called utang na loob, debt of gratitude. But I didn't marry them. I married you. Her face hardened. That's a very Western way of thinking. In the Philippines, family is everything. If you can't accept that, maybe you don't understand me at all. I backed down. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be the selfish foreigner who didn't respect Filipino culture. So I kept giving. Her grandfather needed a new denture. 12,000 pesos. Her grandmother's funeral expenses when she passed. I contributed 30,000 pesos. Her uncle's house blessing when he moved. 10,000 pesos for food and the priest. Tito Ben's 60th birthday. We hosted at our house. 90 people came. I spent 40,000 pesos. Every Sunday after church, we'd go to her parents' house. I'd do Mano Po to her father. He'd hold out his hand. I'd give him 500 pesos. I'd do Mano Po to her mother. 500 pesos. If her Lolo was there, another 500. Every single Sunday. 2,000 pesos a month just for Mano Po greetings. Rose said it was normal. Elders expect it. It's respect. But I noticed something. When her brother visited her parents, he didn't give money. When her sister did, Mano Po, nothing changed hands. It was only me, the foreigner, the one with the pension. I mentioned it to Rose. Why don't your siblings give money during Mano Po? They don't have money like you do. But they work. They have families of their own to support. You and I don't have kids, yet. We can afford to help. I wanted to say, that's because we're supporting your entire extended family instead. But I didn't. Around the 1-year mark of living in the Philippines, Rose's father needed surgery, gallstones. The operation would cost 120,000 pesos. Their PhilHealth insurance would cover some of it, but not all. How much? 60,000 pesos. I stared at her. That was 2/3 of my monthly pension. Rose, I don't have that kind of money just sitting around. He's my father, Graham. He needs surgery. Are you going to let him suffer? Can't your siblings chip in? They're already contributing what they can. We're the most stable. You have a pension. I took the money from our savings, the savings I'd been building for emergencies. For us. Her father had the surgery. He recovered. Nobody ever paid me back. 2 months later, her mother needed cataract surgery, 40,000 pesos. I paid. 3 months after that, her uncle Tito Ben had a heart problem. They needed money for tests. 25,000 pesos. I paid. I stopped keeping a notebook. It was too depressing. By the end of my second year in the Philippines, I'd spent over 600,000 pesos on her family. That's more than 6 months of my pension. Gone. We were living on the edge financially. I couldn't afford to take Rose anywhere nice. I couldn't save anything. Every peso that came in went straight back out to her family. And still, every Sunday, I did Mano Po. And every Sunday, her parents held out their hands. I started dreading Sundays. I started dreading birthdays. I started dreading the phrase, just a small emergency. One night, I broke down. Rose, I can't keep doing this. I'm 50 years old. I should be building savings for us, for our future. Instead, I'm funding everyone else's lives, she cried. You don't understand Filipino culture. You don't understand utang na loob. My parents sacrificed everything for me. Now it's my turn to take care of them. And you're my husband. That means it's your turn too. But when does it end? When do we get to live our own lives? This is our life, Graham. This is what family means here. I felt trapped. If I said no, I was the selfish foreigner. If I said yes, I drowned financially. There was no winning. Then something happened that I wasn't supposed to hear. It was a Saturday afternoon, about 2.5 years into our marriage. Rose was at the market. I was at home, lying on the bed with a headache, door half closed. Her parents came over to drop something off. They didn't realize I was in the bedroom. They were in the living room talking to each other in Tagalog. I don't speak much Tagalog, but I understand more than they think, especially certain words. Her mother said, "Kailangan natin pera para sa birthday ni Tito Ben. We need money for Tito Ben's birthday." Her father replied, "Tanungin si Graham. Lagi naman siyang nagbibigay. Ask Graham. He always gives." Then her mother laughed. Not a kind laugh. A knowing laugh. Siempre. Alam niya na obligasyon niya yan. Respeto sa matatanda. Of course, he knows it's his obligation. Respect for elders. Her father said something I'll never forget. Buti na lang mayaman ang mga foreigner. Madali lang kunin ang pera. Good thing foreigners are rich. Easy to get money from them. They both laughed. I lay there frozen, my headache pounding, my heart pounding harder. They weren't talking about culture. They were talking about money. My money, and how easy it was to take it. I didn't confront them that day. I didn't say a word. I waited for Rose to come home. I asked her casually, "Your parents came by. They mentioned Tito Ben's birthday. How much do they need?" "Probably 15,000 pesos. Just for food. Just for food," I repeated. She nodded like it was nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her father's words. Madali lang kunin ang pera. Easy to get the money. I started paying closer attention. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. When Rose's siblings visited her parents, they never brought money, but I was expected to. When there was a barangay fiesta, other families contributed 200 pesos. I was asked for 5,000. When Rose's cousin got married, Filipino guests gave 1,000 pesos. I was told to give 10,000 because you're family now. The rules were different for me, always. A week later, I ran into a British expat at a cafe in Angeles. His name was Colin. He'd been in the Philippines for 8 years, married to a Filipina. We got to talking. "How's married life treating you?" he asked. "Expensive," I said. Honestly. He laughed. "Let me guess. Every Sunday is Mano Po money. Every month is someone's birthday. Every other month is a medical emergency." I stared at him. "How did you know?" "Because it happened to me too, mate." For the first 3 years, I funded everything. Her parents' medicine, her siblings' kids' school fees, every cousin's wedding. I thought I was being a good husband, respecting the culture. What changed? I talked to my wife's cousin. He's Filipino, married to a Filipina. I asked him how much he gives his in-laws every month. He said, "Maybe 2,000 pesos if they really need it." 2,000. I was giving 20,000 a month. My chest tightened. So, what did you do? I set boundaries. I told my wife we'd help in real emergencies, but the weekly handouts and the constant parties had to stop. She threw a fit, said I didn't respect her culture, but I stood firm. Eventually, she realized I wasn't going to be an ATM anymore. Things got better. Did her family stop asking? Oh no, Colin laughed bitterly. They still ask, but I say no now. And you know what? The world didn't end. They adjusted, found other sources, managed on their own. I went home that day feeling something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Clarity. That night, I sat Rose down. We need to talk about money. She tensed immediately. What about it? I've been tracking our expenses. In the last 2 years, I've given your family over 800,000 pesos. Her face went blank. That's not true. I showed her my bank statements. Every withdrawal, every transfer, all highlighted. She looked at the papers, then at me. So, they're family. That's what you're supposed to do. Rose, we don't have kids. We don't own a house. We have no savings. All because every peso I earn goes to your family. Why is it only me funding everyone? Because you have a pension. You're stable. So, I'm just a wallet? Is that it? She stood up, furious. Don't twist this, Graham. In Filipino culture, stop, I shouted. I never shout. But I couldn't hear that phrase again. Stop saying Filipino culture. I've talked to other Filipinos. I've talked to other expats. What your family is doing isn't normal, even by Filipino standards. You talk to strangers about my family. I talked to people who confirmed what I already suspected. Your family sees me as a foreigner with money. That's it. I'm not family. I'm a resource. She started crying. How can you say that? They love you. Do they? Or do they love my pension? She slapped me. Not hard, but sharp, across the face. Then she ran to the bedroom and slammed the door. I stood there, cheek stinging, realizing our marriage might be over. That was 2 months ago. We're still together, technically. But everything is different now. I stopped giving money to her parents. I stopped doing Mano Po with cash in hand. The first Sunday I showed up and just did the gesture without money. Her father looked confused. Her mother's face went cold. Rose barely speaks to me. When she does, it's cold and clipped. Her family doesn't visit anymore. When I see them at church, they look past me like I'm not there. Rose says I've shamed her. I've dishonored her family. I've proven I never really respected Filipino culture. Maybe she's right. Or maybe I just finally realized that respect shouldn't cost me everything I have. I met up with Colin again last week. I told him what happened. Welcome to the club, mate, he said. I stood up to the in-laws club. But it's an honest one. Do you think I'm wrong? I asked. Wrong for what? For not wanting to bankrupt yourself? For expecting your marriage to be about you and your wife, not you and her entire extended family? No, mate, you're not wrong. But the culture… Listen, Colin interrupted. Filipino culture is beautiful. The family closeness, the hospitality, the warmth. It's real. But what happened to you? That's not culture. That's exploitation. There's a difference. He introduced me to a few other expats that afternoon. Australians, Americans. Every single one had a version of my story. One guy, Dave from Sydney, said, I was 9 to 16 kids. 16. Every birthday, every graduation, every sacrament, I was expected to give gifts and money. I went broke before I woke up. Another guy, Tom from California, said, my wife's family told me I had to fund her uncle's house repairs, 40,000 pesos. I said no. They didn't talk to us for 6 months. Best 6 months of my marriage. Hearing their stories didn't make me feel better, but it made me feel less alone. I also met some Filipinos who were horrified by what I'd experienced. A guy named Marco, who works at a bank in Angeles, said, Bro, that's not normal. Even for us. My parents would never demand money like that. Your wife's family is abusive. A woman named Jennifer, married to an American, said, "My husband helps my parents sometimes, maybe 5,000 pesos every few months if they really need it. But weekly money? Birthday parties he has to fund? That's crazy. They're using him." Hearing Filipinos say it wasn't normal culture, that it was exploitation disguised as culture, that's what finally freed me from the guilt. I'm writing this now from our little rental house. Rose is at her parents' house. She's been spending more and more time there. I think she's planning to leave me, or waiting for me to give in and start funding her family again. I won't. I'm 50 years old. I worked hard my whole life. My pension is supposed to support me, not 3 generations of people I barely know. If respecting Filipino culture means going broke, then I don't respect it. But I don't think that's what culture really means. Real culture is about values. Family, yes. Respect for elders, yes. Community support, yes. But real culture is also reciprocal. It's not one person funding everyone else forever. Real culture doesn't weaponize guilt. Real culture doesn't treat foreigners differently than locals. Real culture doesn't disguise financial exploitation as tradition. What I experienced wasn't culture. It was a trap. A trap that used my ignorance, my guilt, and my love for Rose against me. Here's what I wish I'd known before I married her. Warning sign 1. If culture only requires your money and nobody else's, it's not culture. It's exploitation. Warning sign 2. If you're expected to fund parties, events, and obligations that locals contribute to minimally, you're being targeted. Warning sign 3. If questioning financial requests makes you disrespectful, you're being manipulated. Warning sign 4. If your spouse defends her family's constant demands instead of protecting your financial stability, she's part of the problem. Warning sign 5. If every week brings a new emergency that requires your money, it's not an emergency. It's a pattern. Warning sign 6. If elders expect cash every time you show respect, respect has been monetized. Warning sign 7. If you're told, "It's just our culture," whenever you push back, culture is being weaponized. Warning sign 8. If you're going into debt to fund other people's lives, you're not respecting culture. You're being used. I don't hate Rose. I don't hate her family. But I can't keep living like this. I've made peace with some things. I've accepted that Rose and I probably won't make it. She can't separate herself from her family's expectations, and I can't fund those expectations anymore. I've accepted that her family will always see me as the selfish foreigner who abandoned them. In their version of the story, I'm the villain. I've accepted that I lost nearly 2 years of pension money that I'll never get back. But I've also gained something. I've gained friendships with other expats who understand what I went through. Men who stood up to the same exploitation. Men who set boundaries and survived. I've gained respect from Filipinos who confirm that my experience was abnormal. Who tell me, "That's not how we treat family. That's how con artists treat targets." I've gained clarity about what love should look like. It shouldn't cost me everything. It shouldn't require me to choose between my wife and my financial survival. And I've gained boundaries. I now know the difference between respecting culture and being exploited by it. I now know that utang na loob shouldn't mean endless debt with no reciprocity. I now know that pagalang sa matatanda shouldn't require weekly cash handouts. I now know that family obligations should be balanced, reasonable, and mutual. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, if your Filipino partner's family is bleeding you dry under the guise of culture, please listen to me. You're not disrespectful for setting boundaries. You're not selfish for protecting your financial future. You're not ignorant for questioning demands that don't make sense. Culture is beautiful. Filipino culture is warm, welcoming, and deeply rooted in family values. I still believe that. But exploitation dressed up as culture is not beautiful. It's abuse. If they use our culture to demand your money, ask yourself, do Filipino families treat each other this way, or just foreign partners with pensions? If they use respect for elders to extract weekly cash, ask yourself, do their own children give this much? Or just you? If they use utang na loob to create endless debt, ask yourself, is this reciprocal or one way? The answers will tell you everything you need to know. I thought I was marrying Rose. Turns out, I was marrying her parents, her siblings, her aunts, her uncles, her cousins, and every elderly person in her barangay who saw me as a walking ATM. Nobody told me that part during the wedding vows. I loved her. I still do, in a way. But love shouldn't cost you everything. And culture shouldn't either. I'm still here in the Philippines. I'm not running back to Glasgow. This is my home now, even if my marriage is falling apart. I've found a community of expats who get it. I've found Filipinos who validate my experience and tell me I'm not crazy. And slowly, I'm rebuilding my savings. My pension still comes every month, but now it stays in my account. It's mine, for my future. Not for endless birthday parties and medical emergencies that may or may not be real. Rose asked me last week if I'd help pay for her father's 60th birthday party. I said no. Or maybe I just finally learned that my heart and my wallet shouldn't belong to everyone except me. If you're reading this and you recognize yourself in my story, please learn from my mistakes. Set boundaries early. Before you're in too deep, ask questions, even if they make you uncomfortable. Talk to other expats. Talk to Filipinos who aren't financially benefiting from you. And remember, you're not marrying just her. You're marrying her expectations, her family's expectations. And if those expectations include funding everyone forever, ask yourself if that's really love, or if it's just a really expensive trap.